Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and
Well,
you're watching AccessTV.org.
Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald is a show where you will learn something new. It's a show for the courageous that want to be engaged. A show where we discuss any issues that affect the lives of people. And a show where we take inventory of our lives decisions. Welcome to Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald.
Welcome back to Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald, the show that you like because it's for you, but also the show of the people, for the people, by the people, for all people. We're going to have an important conversation today on Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald. Our topic for today will be identity, how people identify themselves personally and the personal meanings that they ascribe to their own identities and what's important to them about their identities. Thus, the title of the show is Identity Identifying Maxim. And I have some great guests in the studio with me to celebrate. This is my birthday month, so this show is a celebration to me. Seated to my right is Arden, LaShay, and she is a writer as well as an educator. I want to thank you for being here, Arden, LaShay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here at Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald. And beside Arden is Godz, and he is a rap artist, a gospel rap artist, and a producer.
Yes.
I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Godz.
Godz.
Identity is important. For our guests who may not know what the meaning of identity is, the dictionary definition, real quick definition, is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. That is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. I think identity is important. Would you say that, Arden, that identity is important?
I agree. I agree. Identity is important, and I like the fact that you took the time to establish, a meaning and definition for it, because oftentimes we talk about things and we got to put it in a context. So it's that which shapes us. Those are distinguishing characteristics that make us, who we are and how we see ourselves with respect to another.
What is your identity? First question I'd like to ask is, what is your identity, Arden?
I am in the present. I am a authentic, trusting, powerful yet vulnerable woman, and those are the characteristics that influence how it is I interact in the roles that I have in my life. And so an identity is fluid, it's malleable, it's dynamic, so it changes. So then I have all these roles, a mother, a sister, a friend, a member of a state or another society.
All right, I like the idea that you described your identity as being multidimensional and applicable to what roles you play at a given moment in time. Some ways people describe their identity has to do a lot of times with their culture, their ethnicity, how they see themselves, like what you provided, your personal characteristics or personality characteristics. Some people even define their identity based on their geography, like where they live or where they were raised, where they were brought up, Godz will.
Yeah.
You have a very interesting name, a very strong name. I like it. We're probably gonna talk about that later on in the show. Okay. About your name, Godz will, and how you became Godz will. But what is your identity? How do you define yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think obviously on the surface, you can see I'm a black, educated male. I mean, I got my bachelor's degree. First and foremost, I'm a father. I'm a husband. I feel like I'm a great friend. But I think what you're trying to tap in is a little deeper. Like my identity, I identify what the Bible tells me and what God tells me. He says I'm his son. And so for me, that's what I connect myself with. I don't care, what anybody says. God says I'm his, and that's just simply accepting Jesus Christ into my life. And due to them circumstances, he accepts me as his own. And for that, that's who I am. That kind of goes with what my name is, and we'll get deeper into that. But
wow, So you also see, like other people, you can define yourself as well through your faith,
Yes.
your religion, or your spiritual beliefs. They're very interesting. How many ways? The reason why this topic is so important to me is because I think that people are constantly having to struggle sometimes with their identity and who they are and them being themselves, you know, in terms of interacting with the world, and we're interacting with people, because not everyone is going to accept or see you for who you really are, you know, or for the way you identify yourself. Do you agree that a person has a right to choose their own identity, to define themselves and express that identity?
Of course. Of course. If we're to be defined by another, that could be tragic.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we're all here to fulfill, you know, whatever our will is, you know. So that's internal. That comes from within.
But aren't we judged? Aren't we interacting and being bombarded with other people's perspectives and their own views and visions of who we are and our being? I mean, I don't know if I'm just the only one who feels that way. I mean, I think at the end of the day, how you feel about yourself is like really the most important, and you know, being comfortable with oneself and being grounded in oneself and knowing thyself. You know, I think that ultimately is like most important.
Yes.
But would you agree that we are living in a society, in a world where not everyone's embracing who we are?
And that's fine.
You know, and there are people who are, they may be judging you and trying to ascribe things upon you, maybe their views, their perspectives. I mean, I don't know if I'm just the only one who's experienced these type of things.
I have, and I think you have to respect their perspective. That's their perspective, right? But at the same time, you can't let that control your actions. You can't accept that. You can choose to accept that, but I don't allow that to define who I am. And once again, you know, that's their perspective of me, and it could be false to me, but it can be true to them. Who am I to say that they're wrong for believing that? But as long as I stay true to who I am, and I know who I am, and I don't let it affect the way I move, the way I live, I'm totally fine with that. It doesn't affect me, because everybody's going to have their own perspective of you. Yeah. But if you let it control you, then you know that's when it becomes an issue.
I was going to say it was problematic for me before I had a strong sense of myself. You know, and once you invest in an authentic relationship with yourself, other people's perspectives remain where they should be, and that's in their mind.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That leads into, I want to read this poem that I wrote. It's called Identity. It deals with identity, and it's from my book, Brother. I never wanted to be your equal. To preoccupy myself with such a notion is pure absurdity, a false reality. I define myself from within me and by my connectivity, and not by what you perceive me to be. If I am over-concerned about your perceptions and your labels, you would surely still be my master, and that is not who you are to me. I had wrote this several years ago, kind of like grappling with ideas and things I might have been experiencing, you know, dealing with people's prejudices toward me, and maybe communicating their views, their perspectives, and treating me certain ways based on what they thought about who I was.
Yeah.
So this was a poem that really helped me do what you were talking about, Arden, in terms of like really, you know, defining myself from within me and finding that place, that core, that center, that foundation, you know, and that confidence, you know. So I think that's important. We all go through different stages of evolution and evolving.
Yes.
Where, you know,
Exactly.
who we become, who we are, and we grow and we develop, you know. Have you?
It's work though.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yes.
Have you ever had a major opportunity denied to you based on someone else's false perception or judgment of your identity? God's will?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can't pinpoint a specific one, but I'm pretty sure, like, for instance, like, I've gone to school and I've gotten my bachelor's degrees, and I've applied for hundreds of jobs, and I can't pinpoint and say it's because I'm black or because, you know, there may be a perception of me, but I'm pretty sure statistics says it's possibility that that's probably why I'm still struggling with a bachelor's degree to find a job. So I feel like it's probably underneath the surface. It's not showing itself, but I'm pretty sure somebody may see my resume and say, oh, he's a black guy. Maybe not so much. We don't want to give him an opportunity. But I don't know. I don't want to pinpoint and say that's it, but I'm pretty sure that has.
So how do you deal with that? I mean, how do you deal with that knowledge of, because, I mean, you're probably not the only person who's experiencing that here in America, where you have your education and you're applying yourself, you want to get a job or some type of employment in your field, and just seems like doors are not open. You keep applying, you keep being persistent, you keep applying to mainstream world, mainstream society, trying to get a job. How do you deal with that? That fact that
I think I have to go back to just my faith. I serve an awesome God. He's going to open doors, and I stand on that. And even though it may look a little rocky right now, I believe there's doors God is opening. He's preparing for me right now that I just can't see. And if I stay faithful and true to believing that He's going to make a way, for me, there's no worry. There's no, I don't fret, because I know at the end of the day, He's got something bigger, better. Probably that's why I'm not getting a job, because He's saying, I have so much more for you than you think. Maybe that job you're seeking is so below what I have for you. Right. Like you want that, but I have so much more.
I noticed too, when certain doors close, other doors open.
Yeah.
We're going to have to take a break here. Candid Conversation with Darrell Fitzgerald. Right before our break, I want to thank Triple E Printing and Triple E Productions at muzyc.biz. That is muzyc.biz for their support of this episode of Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald. I'll see you right after our break.
You know something? Hartford's strength is the people. They're independent thinkers and love their city. So how did Hartford fall into the hands of rogue policymakers? Well, to start, this rogue group spent nearly $1 million putting themselves on the inside and leaving you out in the cold. What if I told you that $5 can be the difference between a Hartford with hope and vision, or a Hartford that is in perpetual decline, increasing crime, and an educational system going nowhere fast? Your $5 contribution to our team is a statement that you are investing in Hartford's future. Your $5 contribution to Macaulay for mayor will make you a member of the team, and together we will explore the possibilities. More than that, you will be demonstrating that Hartford's people are ready to make a stand. Withstand. Our goal is to get the support of 5,000 people who live, work, and play in Hartford. I'm asking you to make a bold statement by contributing $5 right now, today. If you believe in Hartford and its people like I do, make that contribution. And together we will show Connecticut that the people of Hartford care enough to do our part. We are ready to pick up the ball and run. The people of Hartford are back in the game, and we're in it to win. My name is J. Sam Macaulay, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald. We're having a great discussion here about identity with two dynamic guests. We're going to continue that discussion. Godz, you had mentioned, you're a producer. in your music.
Yes.
I mean, you're a musical artist, and
Yeah.
you're a producer. And I guess your music has a lot to do with who you are and your identity.
Definitely.
I would like the audience to get an idea, a sense of the type of music that you play and that you produce.
Yes.
We could hear his first single. I'm with it. I'm with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm with it. Can you give us a little lead into that?
So I'm with it is basically just talking about how God has given me a purpose, a plan, and I'm just committed to it. I'm with it. Like that's what it is. That's what I'm doing. I'm with it. There's no stopping. There's no turning back. I'm with it. I'm fully committed. So that's really how I got the label of the song.
Excellent.
My God's amazing, I just gotta pray. I'm just a son trying to be like my dad. Just know that I'm with it. 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 Give him praise, my Lord, he deserves it. So purpose made me to worship. From the dirt, I'm your diamond in the rough. Had me laying in the cup, but he brought me to the surface. And I represent the most high. Never seen a milli, but I'm already multi. Haters gon' hate, bring me down. Yeah, they gon' try. Wanna crucify me like Christ, but we don't die. You ain't know many roads on the third day. Living water, but you never go thirsty. Strength bring an end to your week like a Thursday. No Kanye when I speak of that mercy. Rich like we just hit the lottery. His reflection, yes, that's what I'm trying to be. From the dark to the light, what an odyssey. Devil thought he had me, but I'm God's property. And no one compares, but God on my side, tell me who should I fear? Prophecy said that this world won't be fond of me. Honestly, brothers, I really don't care. If you don't like it, that's cool. No, you can't walk in my shoes. Yeah, we're gon' blow this like fuse. If God be for it, then how can I lose? Don't mean to come off conceited. The God that I serve and he can't be defeated. The old me you wouldn't believe it. From cutting up grams, now I'm following Jesus. And I ain't going back. I'd rather be broke than be hustling crack. The wisdom I gain is worth more than your stacks. You might think it's whack, I'm just stating the facts.
Powerful song. I'm with it. Energy of it is real uplifting. I'm with it. And so your identity is in that music.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
And it's inspiring.
It is. Shout out to the producer. That's actually my brother-in-law. His name is Rich Breed. He's an amazing producer. And obviously beat and the vocals come together to make one. So I appreciate everything he puts in his music. It kind of helps me do my thing. But yeah, man, I'm with it. It's a powerful song for me. It expresses just where I'm at right now. That's completely who I am. I'm a servant for my God. I'm trying to promote positive music. I mean, because there's so much other music out there that speaks of negativity, bringing down our black women. You hear it, but I feel like there's not too many people giving you that option of the other side, the positivity, uplifting. You know what I mean? And I feel like at a time right now where there's so much divisions among us, being promoted through politics and all that, we need this. We need more people that's saying, let's come together. Let's be positive. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what I want my music to represent.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're going to get into a little discussion about identity as it relates to politics, identity politics. Arden, you mentioned that you're an educator. How do you educate?
Well, I've taught in Maryland, D.C., and Connecticut public schools, finally, and then I was committed to homeschooling my 2 young daughters. And now I am in the process of launching an organization that is for the purpose of bringing civic awareness. We're talking about identity and politics and civic politics. And that's one huge and important aspect that's been lost from our educational school system. So bringing awareness back to civics. I am one of the people who didn't have an awareness that's necessary of, just how our local government runs or, how federal government runs. So.
Wow. So you're educating people about getting actively involved in the political system and how the government works and we're exercising their rights and their voice politically.
Civically.
Do you get involved with people holding their elected officials accountable
No, not to that extent. My
Okay.
primary responsibility is to communities, families,
Okay.
so children, a family, because, even as adults, we don't stop learning. So we are an organization of lifestyle specialists for the most part.
Okay.
And again, that's, preparing to launch in the spring. So I'm just stating that right now. And there's
great.
a lot to come. I have a great support network that's assisting with that. And I'm looking forward to that launching in the spring.
Putting that positive word out.
Yes.
It's important too to have that bridge where, because they say charity begins at home.
Yes.
So like in teaching the civics and teaching people to have positive lifestyles. That's
Yes.
kind of like holistic ways of living. That's healthy. Healthy ways of living.
Family is the nucleus of
Right.
society. It starts at home first.
Yeah, it
Everything
starts at
begins
home.
at home, and,
And then
we're a concentric circle that's gonna just radiate out.
And it's not. It's nice also
Within,
to.
out.
It's nice to see people literally learn that their voices are very important in being able to communicate too with their elected officials. Not a lot of people need to start getting involved with, like, communicating directly with their elected officials. They elected them in there, so they work for the people. The elected officials work for the people.
Or not, if they don't.
Well, yeah,
you know,
but this
they
is where
elect
this is,
them in or
this is
don't,
right. But this
there's
is where
voice
once they're
there.
elected, this is where you keep that relationship with them.
Yes.
And you maintain some sense of accountability through your communication with them. You can write your legislators.
That's
You can write the people
You can
who
call them.
right. You can
can
get
call.
involved. You can go to city hall meetings. You can go to town hall meetings. You can go to the board of education meetings. You can be actively involved. So you have that foundation. Home is strong. Home is strong. You're maintaining that home, and that home is strong. But also because laws impact the whole land, impact everybody. So how people create laws and legislation and administer the laws in a local city or state or province,
Yes.
is really important too. So all these things work all together.
Yes.
You
And
know,
that's a
to-
part of the education that we'll be delivering.
which is
Yes, it is.
which is really good. It's good to hear that you're involved with that kind of work. I look forward to seeing it, and if there's any way I can help you in that work, you certainly definitely reach out to me, because I certainly will do my best to try to assist you with that.
I appreciate it.
Assist you with that.
I appreciate that.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in a battle. A lot of times, like I literally feel like I'm in a battle sometimes. Like I don't know what it is. I must be a real popular person, but I like I'm dealing with a lot of different type of things where I'm battling people who have certain views of me, perspectives of me. They might want to communicate in ways with me, because maybe I look like a nice guy. I might look like a pushover or something like that. Maybe I come across that way. Sometimes people see that you're positive or you have positivity, and they might see that as a weakness. So they want to come test you. They want to come try you. You know what I mean? So this show is really coming out of a feeling of knowing that you got to keep striving to be positive. No matter how people on the outside of who you are try to interact with you, you still have to be your best person. Be your best person, and you can act responsibly. Dealing with people, be responsible in terms of dealing with them. There's certain things that as I get older, I don't want to tolerate. Like as I get older, it's like there's more and more things that I don't want to tolerate. But I've had to learn how to develop defense mechanisms to keep myself and not having to deal with certain things. You know what I mean? Like I've had to learn how to. There's a time to distance yourself from certain things. A time to distance yourself from people who are disrespectful. People who don't value who you are. Yeah. People who may look at you in a way that's beneath how you see yourself or how you perceive yourself. So it's like I've had to develop these ways of just saying, okay, you know what, I'm keep it cool, I'm keep it together. In the midst of a whatever battle I'm dealing with, a spiritual battle, no matter what I'm dealing with, And I like how you define yourself, God's will, through your faith. Now, how did you become God's will? When did this happen? When you became God's will?
I think it starts literally once you kind of realize
you make that transition of being the old person to the new person, right? So once you allow Jesus or God into you, when you accept Christ, there's a transformation that starts to happen. You're no longer your old self. You know what I mean? There's certain ways that you used to think, certain ways you used to act, starts to deteriorate. Certain things you used to long for, you no longer long. So there at that point you start to realize, okay, I'm not that person no more. I'm no longer Will. And so my brother, he calls me one day. He said, I got a name for you. I'm like, okay. He said, God put it on my heart to say that your name is God's Will. And I said, wow, that's powerful, because there's double meaning in that, right? Because my name is normally Will, but now that God has accepted me into his family, I'm now God's Will. You know what I mean? Wow. But at the same time, my purpose is to do God's will.
So your brother had a role in actually
absolutely
introducing that name to you.
Yeah.
And then you identified it, you embraced it.
Yeah, because
you named yourself.
Yeah, it spoke life to me. When I heard that name, I was like, yeah, that's it. Because I used to go by other names, and it just wasn't fitting. And when he called me and he mentioned God's will, like my spirit jumped. It was like, oh, that's it. Wow. That's it.
Well, I appreciate you two sharing with us here at Candid Conversation with Darrell. We're going to take a break here at Candid Conversation with Darrell. Fitzgerald, we'll see you right after our break. Welcome back to Candid Conversation with Darrell Fitzgerald. We're continuing our conversation about identity. I think we're going to talk a little bit about identity politics. I want to just give the audience a definition for identity politics. It's a tendency for people of a particular religion, race, social background, gender, etc., to form exclusive political alliances, moving away from traditional broad-based party politics. So that's the definition. I hope that's not, it's too complex of a definition. It's like, I kind of like paraphrase it as like these different interest groups almost, like, where people, like I would say, for example, black nationalists. That would be an interest group, a particular group that would fall into this definition of identity politics. A white supremacist group would probably be another, Black Lives Matter would probably be another group that would fall into this type of definition. I really didn't know what the true definition was of identity politics was. In my mind, I had already assumed it would be a certain thing. Right. And I automatically had thought that it was like a definition that showed where these different people who had formed their own exclusive political alliances had made a decision to look past their exclusivity for whatever reason and kind of connect with other people who were in their exclusive groups. Like there was a bridging, like what happened in the civil rights movement, where the civil rights movement was a real foundation. I mean, it came out of the labor movement, but it was like a foundation for people who wanted to fight for human rights and fight for ERA rights, equal rights for women, and also LGBT rights for lesbian and gay people. So it was like I thought it was automatically when these people just put aside their differences, realize it's time for them to come together and fight for what they believe in and advocate for what is right and to protect human rights and the lives of people. So that's what I had thought it was when I first said, but as I started doing the research, I realized that it more so was talking about how these groups stay separate. And so I'm not 100% for that definition. I'm for the definition where these people come together and put aside those strong things that separate them and those walls of demarcation, because there may be a time that these individuals to come together politically and fight for things that really matter for the preservation of life and preservation of human rights and rights for all people and benefit all people. We have another guest in the studio with us. His name is Master A.K.A. Dre. He's a music artist. Also, he's a CEO of Hard Money Records. I want to thank you for being here at Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald, Master A.K.A. Dre. How do you define yourself? How do you see yourself?
Well, first of all, I'm young, so to see myself in so many ways, it's amazing, and to define myself, I don't let anybody else make that decision. I define myself by my actions, what I do every day, when I wake up in the morning, to do the right things, to say the right things to people, to walk down the right paths. That's how I define myself, to keep myself strong.
Would you say that being a music artist is part of your identity and how you define who you are?
Very much so, because through my music, people can see how I am, how I'm living, and how the actions that I take are brought through my music. So it's a very powerful description of me, and they can also take and learn from it.
And you just completed an album, right?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell us what that album is, the name of that album?
The name of the album is Through the Hurt and Pain. I titled that due to the process of how the description of my life is and how artists and celebrities alike are going through hurts and pains that people don't recognize that are part of their everyday life.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe the album?
The album is very powerful. It's not geared towards religion, but it can help you in a religious way if you haven't found your way in the religious area. I
want the audience to actually want to play one of your singles from the album, so the audience gets a sense of the sound of the music. I guess the single is called "Remember Me."
Yes, that is correct.
I'd like to hear that single. Remember
I just had
Me.
to talk to you for a minute. It's your boy, DRE. If I fall, I'ma get back up. On my own, I don't need backup. Just remember me. Oh, just remember me. Remember, I work hard every day of my life. If I'm wrong, I'ma make things right. Just remember me. Just remember me. Remember me. Just remember me. Just remember me. No more fighting, no more lying, not to enemy. You the one I want, you the one I need. It. When I look into your heart, it's just you and me. 1, girl, you know that I could treat you right. 2, all this darkness, I could be a light. 3, you the only girl that's in my sight. 4, I'll do anything to make you mine. If I fall, I'ma get back up. On my own, I don't need backup. Just remember me. Just remember me.
That song really is like kind of like real uplifting. It kind of talks about like sustenance, strength, perseverance, You know, I guess this is when you have a good sense of who you are and your identity. No matter what people throw at you, you can stand strong.
Right.
Yeah, I guess.
Particularly what I'm appreciating as a woman is his effort to, let the woman know. Like, it's not going to be easy for me all the time, and I may have some challenges or downfalls, but, I intend to get back up, and with your support, I'm going to definitely get back up.
True.
So I appreciate that message in there as a woman, as a black woman particularly.
Thank you.
Very complimentary. Yeah. Very complimentary. Now, as we define ourselves and who we are, and we have that sense of who we are, how do you take it, or how do you deal with a person or people who, let's say, they can't accept you, for who you are, like they may communicate with you, talk down to you, communicate with you disrespectfully. How do you deal with that, Andre?
It's a part of life. So every day I wake up and I choose my actions on how to accept and what not to accept, what people have to offer me. There's things that you can just let go through in and out your ear and choose to take it as like a grain of salt, or you can take it personal, which you don't have to, which most people do on a daily basis. But as for me, I don't let things like that get to me. If you have an opinion, if you don't like what I'm doing, that's very much fine, because God made you a human just as much as he made me a human. And we're both here, whether we're here to be together or apart, that's not up to me. So I just make my decisions and, live my way the best way that I can.
Master A.K. Dre, do you agree that a person has a right to choose their own identity and define themselves and express that identity, no matter what that identity is?
Very much. I'm not against being against people who want to be otherwise. If you want to be that way, that's how God made people, with the mind of decision.
Yeah, the older I've gotten, I embrace everything. I embrace all. I embrace people's decisions and choices that they make for themselves. How you see yourself. You want to be a white nationalist, you take pride in being that, that's okay. You're somebody who believes, I may not agree 100 with it, but I understand it, and right. So, and so I know what I'm kind of dealing with. There's so many things out there, in the universe, and how people define themselves. You hear people calling themselves, they identify themselves with being dogs, some people. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, if you see yourself in that manner, you want to be that way, fine. I mean, if that's okay too. True. I hear all different types of songs. You have people who they call themselves a freak. There's a song, Houdini made a song, "The Freaks Come Out at Night." Right. Mm-hmm. They want to call themselves a freak. So that's to each his own. Live your own truth. Right. Parliament Funkadelic came out with "Why Do I Feel Like That? Why Do I Chase the Cat? Nothing but the dog in me." Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have people who they have identified with certain views or perspectives. George Clinton, I'm talking about the dog star, whatever that is. You can do your research and find out what that's about. But what I'm saying is, I've come to embrace and accept people just for who they are, and at the same time, accept myself for who I am. I don't have to. How should I say? Neglect who I am, or kowtow, or disregard who I am. If I'm comfortable, I'm confident with myself and who I am. So I don't have to feel. And there's times I'm not even offended. You might look at me. You don't see my intelligence. You don't see me as an intelligent being. Well, you're missing out on something, because I am an intelligent being. And you get to know me. You put me in the right situation, or you give me the right opportunity, and I'm going to show you just how smart and intelligent I am. A lot of times I see people don't accept people because they're intimidated by people. or they're afraid of their greatness, or they're afraid of the potential of who this person is and what this person can do. You know, and there's a lot of examples like that. I have people sometimes that, you know, somebody knows that a person's affiliated with certain kinds of people, so they don't become afraid. They don't want to deal with those people. They don't even get to know one of those people. You don't get to know one of those people. That person might be okay. That person might be might be their best friend.
And that's common. Or
you know, Public Enemy had the song, "The enemy could be your friend guardian."
This is putting me back to the point you made at the beginning of the segment about identity politics.
Right.
And it caused me to do some research too and sort of look into the meanings of it. And I think you mentioned the Stanford professor, Francis Fukuyama.
Oh yeah, I posted a video of him on Facebook.
Yeah, so
about identity politics.
He lent some interesting context to it, and he talks about it being there's two sources of it of this identity politics, and it's universal. So you have a self identity period. We started with personal, which comes from self, that's inside, and you know, the notion of whether or not we're dissed, you know, disrespected and ignored. And this is reminding me of the work who Dr. Joy DeGruy, post-traumatic slave syndrome, awesome educator. And he says another source is the universal psychological characteristics of identity. It's spirited, and that part of our psyche that demands respect. So the politics identity is a marrying of these two, and axiology is where we can find value in that. It's trying to understand what the values are of the other. So if we could understand the values of the other, it doesn't. There's no detracting. It's you know, detracting from whomever, and it's only when, you know, the branches of government don't, you know, get constant pruning that I think this notion of civic versus fixed identities becomes the mess we're living in right now.
Right. Yeah, my humanity has grown the more I've been able to understand what you're talking about, and being able to understand and accept and be aware of and have the reality of all these differentiations and how people see themselves and how they identify themselves. And but there's a spiritual side to it. There's a psychological part to it, and a spiritual part to it
that we have to put the work into. We have to put that work there, because we have to uncover the hidden beliefs about ourselves. Shout out to Momentum Training, Momentum Education in New York City. You know, self-work has been, it's a lifestyle. It's a part of your lifestyle. And my most recent experience with transformative work through Momentum, you know, was able to help me uncover these hidden beliefs. So we all are able to influence a lot more than what we think we can influence. We just have to uncover these hidden beliefs within ourselves that, you know, we give false perception to us. It's not, other people's perceptions are not ours. But if we're believing, you know, certain things within ourselves, then that's what's gonna, you know, keep us from opportunities. If
we keep eternalizing it.
Yeah, I realize the only opportunities I've been denied are the ones I've denied myself.
And creating excuses for things. Sometimes we're creating excuses because we didn't apply ourselves. We didn't accept the challenge.
We didn't
we backed down.
We didn't dare to do something different
when the challenge came.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this has been a really robust discussion. I really appreciate this discussion about identity and identity politics on Candid Conversation with Darrell Fitzgerald. We want to thank the audience for being a part of our robust discussion. In closing, I also want to thank again Triple E Printing and Triple E Productions at muzyc.biz. That is muzyc.biz for their support of this episode of Candid Conversations with Darrell Fitzgerald. I'll see you next time.